I booked a lake house, stocked the fridge, and sent the group chat a full schedule for our annual family trip. When I arrived, the house was empty. 3 hours later, my sister posted a family weekend at a cabin I wasn't invited to. I said nothing. Then I decided to shut down everything. Locks, login, unlinked my credit card from their accounts, and transferred the family emergency fund into my name. Now, they can contact each other for help. I, 32M, had been organizing our family's annual lake house trip for the past 6 years. Every summer, I'd spend weeks researching the perfect rental, coordinating schedules, and making sure everyone had what they needed. This year felt different from the moment I started planning. The lake house I found was spectacular, for bedrooms, a private dock, and enough space for our entire extended family. I paid the deposit, stocked the fridge with everyone's favorites, and sent out a detailed itinerary 3 weeks in advance. My sister responded with enthusiasm, my parents seemed excited, and my brother even asked if he could bring his girlfriend. Everything appeared normal. I arrived at the lake house Friday afternoon, expecting to be the first one there as usual. The silence felt heavy as I unlocked the door and walked through the empty rooms. My carefully planned weekend spread out before me like a ghost town. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no texts explaining delays or cancellations. 3 hours passed. I sat on the deck, watching the sun reflect off the water, when my phone buzzed with a notification from my sister's Instagram story. My blood ran cold as I opened it. There she was, posting from what looked like a cozy mountain cabin. The caption read, "Family Weekend Vibes," with location tags showing a cabin 2 hours north of where I sat alone. I scrolled through the photos, my parents laughing around a fire pit, my brother and his girlfriend roasting marshmallows, cousins I had specifically invited playing cards at a wooden table. They had planned an entire alternative trip without me. I screenshot everything before the sick feeling in my stomach could stop me. The timestamps showed they had been there since early afternoon, meaning they had deliberately chosen to exclude me while knowing I would be sitting here alone. The logistics must have taken weeks to coordinate behind my back. My first instinct was to call my sister and demand an explanation. Instead, I sat in the growing darkness and thought about the pattern I had been ignoring for years. Every family gathering I organized, every holiday I hosted, every emergency I helped solve, they showed up, enjoyed themselves, then disappeared until the next time they needed something. The family emergency fund I had established 3 years ago came to mind. After my father's heart surgery, I had suggested we all contribute to a shared account for medical emergencies or urgent family needs. Somehow, I had ended up being the primary account holder and the person who contributed the most. When my brother needed money for his security deposit, I approved the transfer. When my sister's car broke down, I covered the repair costs. The account had become my responsibility by default. Then there were the streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Spotify, accounts I paid for that somehow became family accounts. My siblings and parents all had access, but I handled all the billing and password management. They treated these services like utilities that magically appeared each month. I looked around the empty lake house that would cost me $800 for the weekend. Money I had spent assuming I would be surrounded by family who apparently preferred each other's company without me. That night, I made a decision that felt both calculated and inevitable. I started with the streaming accounts. One by one, I changed every password and removed every family member's access. Netflix first, then Hulu, then the premium Spotify account my brother used for his workout playlists. I imagined them trying to log in Sunday night, confused by the sudden access denial. Next came the emergency fund. As the primary account holder, I had the authority to transfer the entire balance to my personal account. $18,000. Money that was supposed to help family members in crisis. Money I had contributed 60% of over 3 years. I moved every penny into an account only I could access. The cloud storage account where we shared family photos came next. Years of pictures, videos from holidays, backup files they had stored assuming the space would always be available. I downloaded everything to my personal drive, then changed the account settings to revoke all shared access. Finally, I tackled the credit card situation. Somehow, over the years, I had become the family member with authorized users on my account. My sister for emergency purchases, my mother for online shopping, my brother for gas and groceries when money was tight. I called the credit card company and removed every authorized user immediately. The lake house weekend stretched ahead of me like an opportunity rather than a punishment. I had paid for solitude, and now I would use it productively. Saturday morning, I drove into town and bought supplies, fishing gear, books I had been meaning to read, ingredients for meals I actually wanted to eat. For the first time in years, I planned activities based entirely on my own preferences. I spent the day fishing from the dock, reading without interruption, and cooking a steak dinner for one. My phone stayed silent until Sunday evening. The first text came from my sister around dinner time. She asked why Netflix wasn't working, assuming it was a technical glitch. I didn't respond. An hour later, my brother texted about Spotify being down. Then my mother called asking about some photos she couldn't access in the cloud storage. I let each call go to voicemail. By Sunday night, the confusion had apparently escalated into panic. My sister called 6 times in a row. My brother sent increasingly frantic texts. My mother left a voicemail asking if I was okay and why the emergency fund account was showing zero balance. I drove home Monday morning feeling more refreshed than I had in months. The lake house weekend had given me exactly what I needed. Time to think clearly about boundaries I should have established years ago. The family group chat exploded Tuesday morning. My sister had apparently tried to use the emergency fund to cover unexpected medical bills for her dog, only to discover the account was empty. My brother needed gas money and couldn't use the credit card that had been declined. My parents were locked out of every streaming service and couldn't figure out how to set up their own accounts. The messages shifted from confusion to accusation within hours. My sister demanded to know what I had done with the emergency money. My brother accused me of being petty and vindictive. My parents asked if this was about the lake house weekend, apparently having realized their exclusion had not gone unnoticed. I crafted one response and sent it to the group chat. I've decided to simplify my financial obligations and digital responsibilities. Everyone is now responsible for their own accounts and expenses. The emergency fund has been dissolved. Please contact each other directly for any assistance moving forward. The aftermath was swift and predictable. My sister called me selfish for taking the emergency fund money. My brother claimed I was overreacting to what he called a simple misunderstanding about weekend plans. My parents suggested we all sit down and discuss this like adults. But something had fundamentally shifted during that solitary weekend at the lake house. The quiet had shown me how much noise and chaos I had been managing on behalf of people who took my efforts for granted. The empty rooms had reflected back years of one-sided generosity and coordination. My sister eventually called and attempted to explain the cabin trip. She claimed it had been a last-minute invitation from our cousin who owned the property. She insisted they had assumed I wouldn't mind since I love having time alone. She said they thought I would prefer the lake house anyway since I had chosen it. Every explanation felt like another layer of disrespect. The coordination required for 6 adults to change plans secretly. The group chat messages they must have sent without including me. The conscious decision to let me arrive alone rather than communicate honestly. None of it had been spontaneous or considerate. My brother tried a different approach, suggesting we were all adults who shouldn't need permission to change weekend plans. He pointed out that I had never specifically confirmed attendance from everyone, though I had sent detailed itineraries and received enthusiastic responses. His logic felt deliberately obtuse. My parents took the diplomatic route, acknowledging that miscommunication had occurred while suggesting we focus on moving forward rather than dwelling on hurt feelings. They offered to reimburse me for the lake house, missing the point entirely. Update 1. 3 weeks later, the consequences of my financial boundaries were becoming clear throughout the family. My sister's dog had required expensive emergency surgery, and without access to the family fund, she had been forced to choose between veterinary payment plans and borrowing money from friends. She was managing the situation, but the stress of handling a crisis independently had apparently been overwhelming. My brother's car had broken down, and without the credit card backup he had relied on for years, he had been stranded for 2 days before figuring out alternative transportation and repair financing. He kept mentioning how inconvenient the timing had been, as if my previous financial support had been scheduled around his emergencies. My parents were struggling with technology more than expected. Setting up individual streaming accounts, managing passwords, and navigating customer service had proven frustrating for them. My mother called twice asking for help with Netflix setup, then seemed hurt when I suggested she contact customer service directly. The family group chat had gone quiet after my announcement, but individual conversations revealed ongoing resentment. My sister sent long text messages detailing her financial stress and questioning whether I understood how families were supposed to support each other. My brother made passive-aggressive comments about how some people prioritized money over relationships, but their struggles were teaching them skills they should have developed years ago. My sister was learning to budget for pet emergencies and researching pet insurance options. My brother was building his own credit and establishing relationships with service providers. My parents were becoming more self-sufficient with technology. I had returned to the lake house the following weekend, paying for it myself again and enjoying the solitude I was learning to appreciate. The quiet water and empty rooms felt peaceful rather than lonely. I was reading more, sleeping better, and discovering interests I had neglected while managing everyone else's needs. Update 2. 2 months after the lake house incident, my family dynamics had settled into a new pattern that felt both strange and liberating. The initial anger and confusion had evolved into a grudging acceptance of the boundaries I had established. My sister had successfully navigated her dog's medical crisis and seemed surprised by her own competence in handling the emergency independently. She mentioned setting up her own emergency savings account and researching pet insurance, though she still occasionally made comments about how much easier things used to be when family resources were shared. My brother had secured his own credit card and was building his credit history for the first time in his adult life. The inconvenience had apparently motivated him to establish financial independence he had been avoiding for years. He seemed simultaneously proud of his progress and resentful that he had been forced into self-sufficiency. My parents had mastered their streaming services and even discovered new shows they enjoyed. My mother mentioned feeling accomplished about solving technical problems on her own, though she still sometimes sighed about how complicated everything had become. The family emergency fund situation remained a source of tension. Everyone understood that I had dissolved the shared account, but opinions varied about whether I had acted appropriately by keeping the money. My position was clear. I had contributed the majority of the funds and had been the sole person managing distributions. The account had essentially become my money that others accessed when convenient. Update 3. 6 months later, an unexpected test of our new family dynamics arrived when my father had another medical emergency. This time, instead of automatically accessing a shared fund or calling me for coordination, my family members had to communicate directly with each other about logistics and expenses. My sister organized the hospital schedule, my brother handled transportation arrangements, and my mother managed insurance communications. They created their own group chat for coordination and divided expenses based on individual financial capacity. I contributed my fair share when asked directly, but I was no longer the default coordinator or primary financial resource. The emergency was handled successfully, but the process revealed how much invisible labor I had been performing for years. My absence from the coordination role forced everyone to step up and take responsibility for specific tasks. The result was more equitable distribution of effort and a better understanding of what family support actually required. My father recovered well, and during one of my hospital visits, he mentioned noticing how differently this emergency had been handled compared to his previous surgery. He seemed to understand that the change had been necessary, though he admitted missing the simplicity of having one person manage everything. The lake house had become my annual solo retreat. I booked the same property each year, spent the weekend fishing and reading, and returned home feeling refreshed and centered. My family had established their own vacation traditions, sometimes inviting me and sometimes planning trips independently. The key difference was honest communication about plans and expectations. Looking back on that empty lake house weekend, I realized it had been exactly what I needed. A moment of clarity that revealed patterns I had been too busy managing to recognize. The solitude had shown me the difference between genuine family connection and convenient resource sharing. My relationships with my family members were slowly rebuilding on more honest terms. We saw each other less frequently, but interacted more authentically. Conversations focused on actual interest in each other's lives rather than logistics and problem solving. Holiday gatherings felt more relaxed because everyone contributed equally to planning and expenses. The revenge aspect of my actions had faded into something more valuable, a restructured family dynamic based on mutual respect and individual responsibility. They had learned to contact each other for help, just as I had suggested. More importantly, I had learned that healthy boundaries felt better than convenient martyrdom. Sometimes the best response to being excluded is discovering how much better life becomes when you stop including yourself in situations that don't value your presence. The empty lake house had taught me that lesson perfectly.